Hello friends, in this video we are going to see some of the important and interesting topics about our planet Earth. It will be presented by me, Vivekanandan Selladurai. And the topics to be covered in these videos are position of Earth in our solar system, shape of the Earth, what does equator, prime meridian, latitudes and longitudes means, and how these are going to be helpful while locating any of the places in our planet Earth, standard time zone and Indian standard time, heat zones of the Earth. Let us discuss those topics in detail. Position of Earth in our solar system. We know that in our solar system, Sun is at the center, and with Sun at the center, all the 8 planets are revolving around the Sun in their respective orbits in an elliptical manner. Our planet Earth is third closer to the Sun after Mercury and Venus, and it is also having its own elliptical orbit, and along that orbit it is revolving around the Sun, and it takes almost 1 year to complete one revolution around the Sun. Understanding the shape of the Earth. Initially it was believed that the shape of our Earth was flat in nature, but later, due to various scientific measurements and observations, we came into conclusion that our Earth was more of a spherical in shape, but it is not a complete sphere. It has its unique shape. That shape is called as geoid shape, that is Earth-like shape. Let us look into some of the measurements like equatorial circumference. This is equatorial circumference, and the total measurements of this equatorial circumference is 24,901 miles, and polar circumference. The total area of polar circumference is 24,859 miles. It is slightly lesser than equatorial circumference. Equatorial diameter is 7,926 miles, and polar diameter is 7,899 miles. So polar diameter is also slightly lesser than equatorial diameter. So both polar circumference and polar diameter are slightly lesser than equatorial circumference and equatorial diameter. So from these observations, we came into conclusion that the shape of our Earth is slightly like the shape of an orange fruit, where the poles are slightly flattened on both the sides, and along the equatorial regions, it is slightly elongated, which is bulge in nature. That shape of our Earth is called as geoid shape. Only Earth has this unique kind of shape. What does axis means? An axis is an imaginary straight line passing through the North Pole, center of the Earth and South Pole. The Earth rotates around its own axis from west to east. So axis is an imaginary line that passes through North Pole, center and South Pole. So around this axis, with the help of this axis, the Earth rotates from west to east, that is west to east. This axis is slightly tilted when we compare with the perpendicular line of the orbital plane. That is, it is tilted by an angle of 23.5 degrees. This orbital plane is the plane where the Earth revolves around the Sun during the revolution period. This tilting of 23.5 degrees is one of the major reasons for causation of different seasons in our Earth. Let us see in detail. To locate a place or point on a sphere like Earth, we need certain points of reference and lines to find out the location of places. So some of the important lines of references are equator and prime meridian. So what does equator mean? An imaginary great circle on the Earth's surface, equidistant from the poles and perpendicular to the Earth's axis of rotation. So equator is an imaginary greater circle, that it is the largest circle on the surface of the Earth. It divides Earth into two equal hemispheres, northern hemisphere and southern hemisphere. It is perpendicular to the axis of rotation, that is axis of rotation which passes through the north pole, center of the earth and the south pole, and based upon those axes of rotation, the earth rotates from west to east. Another line is called prime meridian. Prime meridian is an imaginary north-south line that passes through a place called Greenwich in England and is used as the basis for longitudinal measurements on the globe. This is called prime meridian, and this prime meridian is a line which passes from north to south direction, and it is passing through a place called Greenwich in England. Based upon this prime meridian, the earth is divided into two hemispheres, western hemispheres and eastern hemisphere, and this prime meridian is used as a reference time while we calculating different time zones on different places of the earth. So these two lines, equator and prime meridian, are important for locating any of the places and calculating the time on any of the places of the earth. This equator is otherwise called as 0 degree latitude, and prime meridian is otherwise called as 0 degree longitude. So what does this latitude and longitude means? Latitudes and longitudes. These horizontal lines are called as latitudes and these vertical lines are called as longitudes. So latitudes are geographic coordinate that specifies the north-south position of a point on the earth surface. We know that equator is a 0 degree latitude and it divides the earth into two equal hemispheres, northern hemisphere and southern hemisphere. So these latitudes are used to specify the north-south position of point of the earth surface. And 0 degree longitude is called as prime meridian, which divides the earth into eastern hemisphere and western hemisphere. So longitude is a geographic coordinate that specifies the east-west position of a point on the earth surface. Latitudes, it is the angular distance of a point on the earth surface from the center of the earth measured in degree. Latitudes are always measured in degrees, which it makes an angle from the center of the earth. So if we consider equator, which is located on the same plane on the center of the earth, it makes 0 degree with the center, and while moving from equator towards poles, the angle it makes with the center increases. So this latitude is called as 20 degree latitude, 40 degree latitude, 60 degree latitude. And at the north pole, which is perpendicular to the center, whereas 90 degree north is considered to be as north pole. Like that, south pole, 90 degree south is called as south pole, which is perpendicular towards the center of our earth. Longitude is the angular distance of a point on the earth surface along the equator, east or west from the prime meridian. Whereas longitudes are measured with the reference of 0 degree longitude, that is prime meridian, while moving eastwards, it will be increases, and while moving westwards, it will be increases along the equator. These lines are parallels of latitudes, and on the globe they are circles. These lines are parallel to each other. Latitudes are parallel to each other, and on the globe it forms the entire circle. On the globe they form semicircles from pole to pole passing through the equator, while longitudes are passing from pole to pole, so they are forming semicircles. So each semicircles are moreover similar in size, and each semicircles divides the earth into two halves, whereas only equator, that is 0 degree latitude, only has the ability to divide the earth into two equal halves. The circumference of circles decreases from equator to pole, and at the pole it converts us to a single point. We know that equator is the greatest circle and it has the greatest circumference. So while moving from equator towards poles, the circumference of each latitudes are decreases, and at the poles, whereas at north pole and south pole it converges at a single point. Prime meridian is a semicircle from pole to pole from which all the other meridians radiate eastwards and westwards up to 180 degree meridian. That 180 degree meridian is called as international date line, which is exactly opposite to that 0 degree longitude prime meridian. 1 degree latitude is approximately 111 kilometers. So each degree latitude on the surface of the earth covers almost 111 kilometers on the surface of the earth. The most important latitudes are Equator 0 degree latitude, 23.5 degree north latitude is called as Tropic of Cancer, 23.5 degree south is called as Tropic of Capricorn, 66.5 degree north is called as Arctic Circle, 66.5 degree south is called as Antarctic Circles. The earth is divided into 24 longitudinal zones, each being 15 degree or 1 hour apart in time. We know that the entire earth is 360 degree and 360 degree in circle, and earth takes 24 hours to complete one rotation. So the entire 360 degree is divided by 24 hours. So we get 15 degrees in 1 hour or 1 degree in 4 minutes. So from 0 degree longitude, which is considered as a prime meridian, while moving eastwards, on every 15 degree we gain by 1 hour. While moving westwards, on every 15 degree we lose by 1 hour. Based upon this, total time zones are divided into 24 zones. So these are called as standard time zones. This international date line, which is 180 degree meridian, is located exactly opposite to that of 0 degree prime meridian. Here it is exactly opposite, right? So this side is eastern hemisphere and this side is western hemisphere. We know that earth rotates from west to east, and here Aleutian Islands are located near the Alaska region of USA, which is on the western hemisphere, and here Japan is located. Japan is called the land of rising sun because sun rises in the east and the day starts from the eastern end. So if it is Sunday on the western end, eastern hemisphere, eastern side, are 24 hours ahead. That is Monday on the eastern hemispheres. If we are moving from eastern hemisphere to western hemisphere, that is from eastern end to western end, we will gain a day because another 24 hours is pending. That pending 24 hours we will gain that day. But if we are moving from western end to eastern end, we may lose a day. For example, if the day starts on the western end at 12 a.m. on Sunday, at the same time if we move across the international date line, at the same time the day starts on 12 a.m. of Monday. So the entire Sunday will be lost. So at the end, while moving from eastern end to western end, we will gain a day, and if we move from western end to eastern end, we will lose a day. So the entire earth is divided into 24 different time zones. With the 0 degree longitude, prime meridian as the reference line, the 24 different time zones are divided. This is eastern hemisphere and this is western hemisphere. Sun rises in the east, right? So the eastern side are always ahead of western side while calculating times. From prime meridian, if we are moving towards eastern hemisphere, for every 15 degree there will be an addition of 1 hour, and from prime meridian, if we are moving towards western sides, for every 15 degree there will be a reduction of 1 hour. So based upon this, there will be different time zones on different places on the surfaces of the earth. And we know that international date line is 180 degree meridian, which is directly opposite to that of 0 degree prime meridian. And in the western side, if it is Sunday, then on the eastern side it will be Monday, because eastern end are always 24 hours ahead of western end. So that earth takes 24 hours to complete one rotation. Our country India, which is located on the eastern hemisphere, is 5.5 hours ahead of Greenwich Mean Time, that is 0 degree prime meridian. And the longitude, 82.5 degree eastern longitude, which passes through Allahabad city, is considered as a Indian Standard Meridian. we know that 15 degree, for every 15 degree there will be 1 hour difference, right? So the eastern boundary, that is 97 degree east longitude of our country, is 1 hour ahead of IST, and westernmost boundary 68 degree east longitude are 1 hour behind IST. So both the ends, western end and eastern ends are differs by 2 hours. So in order to avoid that confusion, our country is using one single time as our Indian Standard Time. So the local time at this meridian, that is 82.5 degree east meridian, is taken as the standard time for the whole country. It is known as Indian Standard Time. Heat zones of the earth. Before discussing about the heat zones of the earth, let us analyze this picture. In the first picture, the boy places the light rays almost perpendicular on the mat, right? So the torch light, it provides direct rays, and the direct rays covers only small distance, but the intensity of light rays is more, so the direct rays produce more heat. But in this picture, the boy places the torchlight at an angle of 45 degree. So the indirect rays, the slanting indirect rays may cover large area, but the intensity of the light is very less when compared to the direct rays, and it produces less heat. So keep this in mind. Our earth is curved in nature, right? So the different parts of the earth receives different intensity of the sun rays. The different parts of the earth receives different amounts of solar radiation. This is because the sun rays strikes the earth's surface most directly at the equator. So like here, the direct rays provides more energy. Here the sun's incoming solar radiation of suns almost strikes directly at the equator. So in the equatorial region, it covers small areas but provides huge intensity of sun rays. But while moving upwards or downwards, the curved surface of the earth makes the sunlights to incline, and this inclination of sun rays provides less intensity of heat, and it provides less energy to these areas while moving away from equator towards the poles. So as you move away from equator, you will notice that different areas also receive different amounts of sunlight in different seasons. So keep this in mind. That is due to the curved nature of our earth, the different rays of sunlight gives different intensity, different heats on different surfaces of the earth. So we have seen that based upon the inclination of direct rays of incoming solar radiation, different zones of the earth experiences different intensity of heat rays, because earth is curved in nature, right? So based upon the heat energy experiences on different zones of the earth, the heat zones of the earth are divided into three types: torrid zone, temperate zone, and frigid zone. Torrid zone, the midday sun is exactly overhead at least once a year on all latitudes in between the Tropic of Cancer and Tropic of Capricorn. This area therefore receives the maximum heat. These are therefore called as torrid zone. Between Tropic of Cancer and Tropic of Capricorn, the sun travels between Tropic of Cancer and Tropic of Capricorn for the entire year. So the direct intensity of sun rays always falls in this region. So this region experiences the maximum amount of heat energy. Another region, temperate zone. The midday sun never shines overhead on any latitude beyond the Tropic of Cancer and Tropic of Capricorn. The angle of sun's rays goes on decreasing towards the poles. As such, the areas bound by the Tropic of Cancer and Arctic Circle, Tropic of Cancer and Arctic Circle in the northern hemisphere, and Tropic of Capricorn and Antarctic Circle in the southern hemisphere. Tropic of Capricorn and Antarctic Circle in the southern hemisphere have moderate temperatures. These are called as temperate zones, that is north temperate zones and south temperate zones. Whereas the areas between the Arctic Circle and the North Pole and the Antarctic Circle and the South Pole are permafrost in conditions. They do not receive any amount of direct sun rays on the entire year. So the frigid zone, areas lying between the Arctic Circle and the North Pole in the northern hemisphere and Antarctic Circle and the South Pole in the southern hemisphere, are very cold. It is because here the sun does not rise above the horizon. Therefore, its rays are always slanting and provides less heat. These are therefore called as frigid zone or permafrost zone. Thank you.